Palidara sampai dia bilang dia live.
Now, silakan moderator Pak Kahalidara Raiwawa.
Oke, Rabbi, besem ha'af ve'aben veruach Elohim echad.
Yes. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Our God is one. Amen.
Okay, our God is one.
Yes, He is. Well, that's actually a great prayer.
Please, okay, please your prayer first before we start the program.
Yes, I'm going to pray a prayer that we pray in Hebrew every morning. And so I'll start off with prayer, but this prayer in Hebrew, I'll then give the English for it. Okay. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Atagibor leolam Adonai mechayem etimata rav leoshia, Mashiva ruach umarida gashem, mechakel hayim bechesed, rakamim rabim somet muflim verofe holim umatir asarim. Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamoch habal gavarut umidomelach melek memit umeskayem umatzmiak Yeshua v'ne'amat halachayot hametim Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hametim. Amen. In this prayer, calling God our Father and our King, we declare that you are mighty, O God, to save, and you revive the dead, and you give loving kindness to those that are your children. And so we thank God for the ability to see the miracles that you will do. The miracles are that you support the fallen, that you heal the sick, that you raise the dead, that you sustain the living in the dust, preparing them for resurrection, because you're a master of mighty deeds, and no one can compare to you. You are our King who, although you cause death, you also bring us back to life. And you give us salvation, Yeshua, and you are faithful to resurrect the dead. Blessed are you, O Lord, who revives the dead. Yeshem Yeshua, Amen. All right.
Amen.
The reason I like this prayer is because it describes the ministry of Yeshua, who supported the fallen. He heals the sick. He sets the captives free, and he resurrects the dead who sleep in the dust.
Iya, alasan saya menyukai doa ini adalah karena Yesus ini benar-benar seperti yang dikatakan di dalam kitab Yesaya ya. Dia membebaskan para tawanan, dia menolong orang-orang yang lemah dan menyembuhkan orang-orang yang sakit.
And the powerful thing about the topic of the Messiah is that there are so many prophecies that Yeshua has fulfilled to prove that he is the Messiah.
Dan di dalam kitab Yesaya itu ada banyak sekali nubuatan-nubuatan yang di mana semua nubuatan-nubuatan itu sudah digenapi, nubuatan tentang Mesias ya, itu digenapi oleh Yesus sendiri.
But I will say that it's the most controversial topic that we can discuss around the world.
Dan saya boleh mengatakan bahwa ini adalah topik yang sangat menimbulkan pro dan kontra ya di seluruh dunia.
In fact, many of these prophecies come from the prophet Isaiah.
Dan kebanyakan nubuatan mengenai Mesias ini datang dari Nabi Yesaya.
And we've talked about how when compiling the prophecies, the rabbis saw two different scenarios.
Dan ketika mereka mencoba mengumpulkan nubuatan-nubuatan mengenai Mesias ini, maka rabi-rabi ini mempunyai dua pandangan atau dua skenario yang berbeda.
Traditionally, the Messiah has to be the son of David.
Secara tradisi, Mesias ini harus berasal dari anak atau keturunan Daud.
He must sit upon David's throne as a king.
Dia harus duduk di atas tahta Daud sebagai raja.
So he must be a descendant of King David and that royal lineage.
Jadi dia harus berasal dari keturunan Daud dan dari garis keturunan kerajaan atau dari garis keturunan raja-raja.
And the Jewish community has to be convinced that he comes from the right line of the kings.
Dan komunitas Yahudi harus diyakinkan bahwa dia benar-benar berasal dari keturunan raja-raja.
In fact, out of 12 tribes of Israel, he must come from the right tribe, from the tribe of Judah.
Dan faktanya dia harus berasal dari suku yang benar ya, dari 12 suku Israel dia harus berasal dari suku Yehuda.
And that is because King David comes from the house of Judah.
Karena Raja Daud berasal dari suku Yehuda.
And so the birthplace of King David is even supposed to be the birthplace of the Messiah.
Dan bahkan tempat kelahiran Raja Daud itu harus menjadi tempat kelahiran Raja Mesias.
He's supposed to be born as David was born in Bethlehem, Beit Lechem, which means the house of bread in Hebrew.
Dan bahkan Yeshua atau Mesias itu harus dilahirkan dari kota Bethlehem. Bethlehem itu artinya bet, itu artinya rumah roti.
So we have to think about these prophecies and see if they line up for Yeshua to fulfill them.
Jadi kita harus melihat nubuatan ini mengenai Mesias, apakah Yesus menggenapi dan masuk di dalam kategori nubuatan Mesias ini.
And there are many that want to disqualify Jesus or Yeshua from being the Messiah.
Dan banyak orang yang mau mengeluarkan ya Yesus atau mereka menolak ya nubuatan-nubuatan Yesus dari Mesias ini.
So we need to study the scriptures to show ourselves approved unto God.
Jadi kita harus setia pada Alkitab ya, pada kitab suci kita harus melihat nas kitab suci, apa kata nas kitab suci tentang Mesias ini dari Tuhan.
And sometimes we focus too much on being approved or accepted by man.
Dan kadang-kadang kita terlalu memikirkan apakah manusia ini berpihak pada kita ya, terlalu memikirkan pendapat manusia.
And other religious groups and organizations might see it differently.
Dan banyak grup-grup atau komunitas-komunitas religius lainnya itu melihat hal yang berbeda.
In fact, one of the most famous prophecies is found in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7.
Dan nubuatan yang paling kontroversi ya itu adalah Yesaya 9 ayat 6.
And we use it for the holidays when we talk about the birth of the Messiah.
Dan kita juga bahkan libur ya pada waktu hari kelahiran Mesias.
It says that unto us a child is born and unto us a son is given.
Dikatakan di dalam kitab Yesaya itu bahwa bagi kita seorang anak telah dilahirkan, seorang putra telah diberikan.
A child is born means a human child that comes into the world.
Seorang anak telah dilahirkan artinya seorang manusia yang datang ke dalam dunia.
But we also see a son that is given directly from God.
Tapi kita juga melihat seorang putra telah diberikan secara langsung dari pihak Tuhan.
And this prophecy says that the government will be upon his shoulder, meaning his responsibility to rule.
Dan di dalam nubuatan ini juga dikatakan bahwa lambang pemerintahan ada di bahunya. Artinya dia mempunyai kewajiban ya atau tugas sebagai pemerintah ya untuk memerintah.
And then it says that his name will be called by these preceding titles.
Kemudian juga dikatakan di situ bahwa namanya akan disebutkan dengan gelar-gelar sebagai berikut.
In English, it looks like there's actually 5 titles, starting with wonderful.
Di dalam bahasa Inggrisnya, terjemahannya, kelihatannya ada 5 gelar di sini, dimulai dengan kata ajaib.
But when we look at the Hebrew, it actually seems to describe 4 compound titles.
Tetapi kalau kita melihat bahasa Ibrani-nya, hanya ada 4 gelar yang bisa kita gambarkan di situ.
We can put words together in what we call a construct state.
Kita bisa menyatukan kata-katanya atau kita bisa membuat satu singkatan di situ.
For instance, the last compound is Prince of Peace, Sar Shalom.
Sebagai contoh, gelar terakhir yang disebutkan di situ adalah Raja Damai atau Pangeran Damai ya, Shar Shalom.
Putting these words together as a compound in a construct state means it's describing this of that, or using the word of to join the two things together.
Jadi kalau kita menyatukan dua kata-kata ini, maka kita bisa menggabungkan kedua kata-kata ini menjadi satu makna.
And the more you study scripture, you know that sometimes it's very difficult to translate the Hebrew in different languages.
Dan kalau kita mempelajari Alkitab, kadang-kadang memang sulit ya untuk menerjemahkan dari kata-kata Ibrani ke dalam bahasa lainnya.
For instance, as I said, in English, it looks like 5 words.
Sebagai contoh, saya katakan di dalam bahasa Inggris kelihatannya ada 5 gelar di situ.
But when we look specifically at the Hebrew, it seems to describe 4 descriptions.
Nah, tetapi kalau kita melihat dalam bahasa Ibraninya, ternyata hanya ada 4 deskripsinya.
So let's look at the first 2 in English, wonderful and counselor.
Kemudian sekarang mari kita lihat yang pertama, yaitu penasehat yang ajaib.
And let's put them together as a compound in construct state.
Ya, mari kita satukan dua kata-kata ini antara penasehat dan yang ajaib.
I think someone needs to mute.
Yeah, I did already.
Okay,
Sorry.
great. So when we put wonderful counselor together, we have to look at the word wonderful in Hebrew, which is pele.
Kemudian kalau kita melihat kata ajaib di situ dalam bahasa Ibrani adalah pele.
It doesn't really intend to describe a wonderful person.
Ini tidak dimaksudkan untuk menggambarkan seseorang dengan sangat ajaib ya atau sangat luar biasa.
More than it describes a person full of wonders.
Tapi lebih menggambarkan seseorang yang mempunyai tanda-tanda atau keajaiban-keajaiban atau mujizat-mujizat.
The word pele can mean miracles or wonders, as in signs and wonders.
Kata pele ini bisa berarti mujizat-mujizat atau tanda-tanda ya, sama seperti tanda-tanda dan mujizat di dalam Alkitab kita.
And a counselor, the second word, yoetz, is an advisor.
Dan kata kedua, counselor, itu artinya yoet, artinya penasehat ya.
So in Hebrew it reads pele yoetz,
Dalam bahasa Ibrani pele yoet,
which means a miracle working counselor.
artinya adalah penasihat ajaib yang disertai dengan tanda-tanda dan mujizat.
A counselor or an advisor that solves your problem with a miracle, a sign, a wonder.
Seorang penasehat yang bisa membantu Anda untuk menyelesaikan masalah Anda dengan tanda-tanda dan mujizat.
And when people came to Jesus, he solved their problems through miracles.
Dan ketika orang datang kepada Yesus, Yesus menyelesaikan masalah mereka ya dengan tanda-tanda dan mujizat.
So instead of just thinking as the one that is born in this text as just a wonderful person, we should see him as a miracle working counselor.
Jadi bukan hanya seorang yang lahir dengan ajaib ya, tapi kita harus melihat teks Ibraninya sebagai seorang penasehat yang mempunyai tanda-tanda dan mujizat.
And then the next title that comes in the text is Mighty God, which is El Gibor.
Lalu gelar kedua adalah Allah yang perkasa, yaitu El Gibor.
And many have said, well, see, this is proof that the person is God.
Dan banyak orang yang mengatakan, oh berarti anak yang dilahirkan ini adalah Tuhan, Allah.
And Jewish rabbis look at the text as referring to a title for God himself, as many of the prophets had the name of God in their name.
Dan Rabbi Yahudi juga menggambarkan ini adalah gelar kealahan sendiri ya, sebagaimana yang dinubuatkan oleh para nabi, ini adalah nama Tuhan sendiri.
But if we look at the previous 2 verses that come before verse number 6, like verse 4 and 5, it talks about a yoke or a burden being broken off, and it talks about warriors and battle.
Iya, tapi kalau kita lihat 2 ayat sebelumnya, ayat 4 dan 5 menyatakan tentang kuk yang dipatahkan dan tentang pahlawan-pahlawan yang gagah dalam peperangan.
And we see the word El, which is the shortened form of Elohim, just translated God, in many of the names of the prophets.
Dan kalau kita melihat kata El, ini kependekan dari kata Elohim, ini merupakan banyak nama-nama Tuhan yang disebutkan di dalam kitab para nabi.
Like Samuel, which
Dan nama-nama ini
means
here.
name of God or heard from God.
Ya, kata El ini juga dimasukkan di dalam nama para nabi ya. Contohnya Nabi Samuel ya, artinya Tuhan mendengar.
And then you think of names like Jacob, whose name was spiritually changed to Israel.
Kemudian juga Yakub yang namanya diubah menjadi Israel,
which can be translated Prince of God.
yang diterjemahkan sebagai pangerannya Allah,
Or someone who strives with God.
atau seorang yang bergumul dengan Tuhan, dengan Allah.
So when we think of these names, we have to think about what it's describing in context.
Jadi kalau kita memandang nama ini, kita harus melihatnya di dalam konteksnya.
And that is because the word El does not always describe God the Father.
Karena kata El di dalam Alkitab kita tidak selalu menggambarkan Allah Bapa yang di surga.
In fact, the word God in English is an abstract idea.
Pada dasarnya kata El di dalam bahasa Inggris adalah sebuah ide yang abstrak ya.
And Hebrew is more function over form.
Di dalam bahasa Ibrani kata El atau Allah ini lebih kepada fungsinya ya, bukan nama.
And El can refer to a mighty warrior.
El atau Allah ini bisa merujuk kepada seorang pahlawan yang gagah perkasa.
In fact, the word El from the root Allah means to be strong and can't be broken.
Pada dasarnya El berasal dari akar kata Allah yang artinya kuat, perkasa, dan tidak bisa dipatahkan ya, tidak bisa dihancurkan.
And of course, we know that the Creator describes himself as the strongest one in the whole universe.
Dan tentu saja pencipta kita mendeskripsikan dirinya atau menggambarkan dirinya sebagai yang paling kuat di seluruh alam semesta.
And when he makes a covenant, it cannot be broken.
Dan ketika dia membuat satu perjanjian, maka perjanjian itu tidak bisa dibatalkan.
This is why also angels are described as Elohim.
Itulah sebabnya mengapa para malaikat-malaikat juga disebut sebagai Elohim atau Allah.
And the judges of Israel were called Elohim.
Dan hakim-hakim di Israel juga disebut Allah.
It can actually describe mighty ones.
Itu El itu digambarkan sebagai seorang yang sangat perkasa, sangat kuat.
And we know, according to Trinitarian belief, the Father is not the Son and the Son is not the Father.
Dan di dalam doktrin Trinitas kita percaya bahwa Bapa itu bukan anak, berbeda dari anak, dan anak itu bisa dibedakan dari Bapa.
So when we say that the Messiah is El Gibor, we're not saying that he is God the Father.
Ketika kita mengatakan bahwa Mesias adalah El Gibor, dia bukanlah Allah Bapa itu.
In fact, El Gibor can be a title of a warrior that's given authority by a higher source, sovereign, or power.
El Gibor adalah gelar yang diberikan dari otoritas yang lebih tinggi ya, untuk seseorang yang sangat-sangat kuat dan perkasa.
And when Yeshua was born and became a man and had acquired disciples, he told them that I'm not doing these works by my own power, but I'm only doing this in the power of my Father.
Dan ketika Yeshua, Sang Mesias, menjadi manusia, dia mengatakan bahwa aku melakukan semua ini bukan dengan kekuatanku sendiri, tetapi dengan kekuatan yang diberikan oleh Bapa kepadaku.
The Son of God came to do the will of God.
Anak Allah datang untuk melakukan kehendak Bapa.
And this is how mighty warriors would defend their kingdom and their king.
Dan inilah yang dilakukan orang-orang yang perkasa untuk membela kerajaannya dan raja mereka.
Isaiah is actually describing in chapter 9 a season of darkness, spiritual darkness that has covered Israel and their land and wars that are coming.
Yesaya, di Nabi Yesaya di pasal 9 ini menggambarkan suatu kegelapan rohani ya yang melingkupi Israel pada waktu itu. Kemudian bahwa peperangan atau suatu perang yang besar ini akan segera datang.
But we also know that Isaiah is prophesying a time that yoke of bondage and darkness will be broken through this child that would be born.
Tetapi Nabi Yesaya juga menyebutkan bahwa suatu kuk yang dikarenakan suatu kegelapan rohani ini juga akan dipatahkan oleh karena kelahiran seorang anak ini.
So far we have a miracle working counselor and a mighty divine warrior.
Dan sejauh ini kita mendapatkan dua gelar daripada anak yang dijanjikan ini, yaitu penasehat yang ajaib dan yang kedua adalah seorang pahlawan yang gagah perkasa yang ilahi.
And this warrior defeats the enemy for the Davidic dynasty and the kingdom of God.
Dan pahlawan yang gagah perkasa ini mengalahkan musuhnya untuk membela kerajaan Daud dan tahtanya.
The third compound would be the words everlasting Father,
Gelar yang ketiga artinya Bapa yang kekal.
but the text has to be looked at in Hebrew to better understand what the term means.
Untuk melihat lebih jelas lagi, lebih dalam lagi, kita harus melihat artinya dalam bahasa Ibrani.
Because we know the Father is not the Son and the Son is not the Father.
Sebab kita tahu bahwa Bapa ini beda ya dari anak dan anak ini beda dari Bapa.
So the term Father refers to being the source of something or starting something new or birthing something new.
Jadi kata Bapa itu artinya seseorang yang memulai sesuatu yang baru atau seseorang yang melahirkan sesuatu yang baru.
And the word everlasting is not the term we use for eternity, olam.
Dan kata everlasting ini bukan dari kata kekekalan atau dari kata olam.
It says in Hebrew, avi ad.
Dalam bahasa Ibrani adalah avi ad.
And avi means my father.
Avi artinya Bapakku.
In Aramaic, we would just say Abba,
Dalam bahasa Aramaik Abba.
because the Hebrew word for father is Av.
Karena bahasa Ibrani untuk Bapa adalah Av.
And we refer to God as Father.
Kita merujuk kepada Allah sebagai Bapa kita.
We refer to our male parent as a father.
Kita merujuk kepada ayah laki-laki kita sebagai Bapa.
Elisha would call his trainer or head prophet, Elijah, father.
Nabi Elisha menyebut nabi yang menjadi gurunya atau mentornya Elia sebagai Bapa.
And even the servants of Abraham would call Abraham their father.
Dan bahkan hamba-hamba atau para pelayan-pelayan, budak-budak Abraham menyebut Abraham sebagai Bapa.
So father is applied in many ways in Hebrew.
Jadi kata Bapa ini punya banyak sekali istilah ya di dalam bahasa Ibrani.
But the second word, ad, means continual, or can be translated until.
Tapi kata kedua, ad, itu artinya sesuatu yang terus-menerus berlangsung ya. Sesuatu yang continue, yang terus-menerus berlangsung, atau sesuatu yang atau kata sampai dengan ya.
So when you put the two words together, avi, ad, it could mean a continual father or a father that has a continual role or lifespan.
Jadi kalau kita gabungkan dua kata itu, avi, ad, artinya seorang bapa yang mempunyai hidup yang berkepanjangan atau mempunyai keberlangsungan hidup yang secara terus-menerus.
There is a comparison in Isaiah's words that you find in Isaiah chapter 22.
Ada kata perbandingan yang kita jumpai dalam Yesaya pasal 22.
Many of you know the quote that John the Apostle uses in the book of Revelation.
Dan kata ini dikutip oleh Rasul Yohanes di dalam kitab Wahyu.
That John in Revelation 3:7 quotes Isaiah 22:22.
Kita melihat bahwa Rasul Yohanes di Wahyu 3 ayat 7 mengutip Yesaya 22 ayat 22.
And it talks about the person who has the key of King David.
Dan ini bicara mengenai seorang yang mempunyai kunci Daud.
And the key would be placed upon this person's shoulder.
Dan kunci Daud ini akan diletakkan di bahu orang tersebut.
Just like the government would be placed on Messiah's shoulder as the son of David.
Sama seperti lambang pemerintahan ada di bahu Mesias ya sebagai anak Daud.
And usually a door opener for a king would wear a key on his shoulder to quickly open a door for the king who is in back of him.
Dan biasanya ini adalah pembawa kunci raja ya. Jadi seorang yang membawakan kunci raja itu dia biasanya membukakan pintu ketika raja itu masuk, raja itu berjalan di belakangnya.
And you can think about Jesus or Yeshua telling Peter that I give you the keys of the kingdom.
Dan kita bisa membayangkan ketika Yesus berkata kepada Petrus, kepadamu aku memberikan kunci-kunci kerajaan sorga.
These disciples would have understood that they're supposed to be doorkeepers to open a door or prepare the way for the king to come through.
Jadi mereka tahu ketika Yesus mengatakan kepadamu diberikan kunci-kunci kerajaan sorga, ini artinya mereka penjaga pintu dan mereka mempersiapkan jalan bagi kedatangan seorang raja.
Isaiah 22 verse 22 says that he will open doors that no man can shut and shut doors that no man can open.
Yesaya 22 berkata bahwa jika dia memegang kunci Daud, maka jika dia membuka pintu, maka tidak ada seorang pun yang dapat menutupnya, dan jika dia menutup pintu, maka tidak ada seorang pun yang dapat membukanya.
And this passage says that he will be a glorious throne to his father's house.
Dan ayat tersebut menunjukkan bahwa tahta daripada Sang Mesias ini akan menjadi tahta kemuliaan bagi bapaknya.
The prophet Isaiah says that he will be a father to his generation.
Nabi Yesaya mengatakan bahwa dia akan menjadi bapa bagi keturunannya.
The idea is that when a king is in power, he is to father that generation.
Idenya adalah ini ya, maksud dari ayat itu adalah ketika raja tersebut berkuasa, maka dia menjadi ayah bagi generasinya atau bagi rakyatnya.
And this means that the king was to take care of those that were a part of his kingdom.
Ini artinya raja tersebut memelihara rakyatnya yang menjadi bagian dari kerajaannya.
And this is what King David did for Israel when he reigned in Jerusalem.
Dan inilah dilakukan Raja Daud ketika dia memerintah di Yerusalem.
So we have to think about what Aviad actually means.
Jadi kita harus memikirkan sebenarnya apa sih arti kata Aviad.
It says in Isaiah 22:21, the preceding verse, that he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem.
Di dalam Yesaya 22 ayat 21 ayat sebelumnya kita melihat bahwa Mesias ini harus akan menjadi ayah bagi seluruh penduduk Yerusalem.
So this is a title given to a glorious king.
Jadi ini adalah gelar yang diberikan kepada raja yang sangat-sangat mulia.
So when the Messiah is called Aviad, it's not saying that he's God the Father, but he will be a father on the throne in Jerusalem.
Jadi ketika dikatakan gelar Aviad, bukan berarti dia adalah Bapa, Allah Bapa yang ada di surga. Melainkan dia akan menjadi raja yang akan duduk di atas tahtanya.
And it's just like Jesus or Yeshua, who treated his disciples like brothers, but he cared for them like a father.
Jadi sama seperti Yesus ya, ketika dia menyebut bahwa rasul-rasul atau murid-muridnya ini sebagai saudara, Yesus memperlakukan mereka seperti saudara, tetapi dia juga memelihara mereka seperti ayah memelihara anaknya.
Just like Yeshua said, I am the bread of life. And remember, he was born in a city called House of Bread.
Sama seperti Yesus ya, ketika dia mengatakan akulah roti yang hidup itu, dan dia juga lahir dari kota roti ya, atau rumah roti.
And like a father feeds their children, Yeshua fed 5,000, not including wives and children, at one setting, and 4,000, not including wives and children, in another miracle.
Dan sama seperti Yesus yang memberi makan bagi seluruh pengikut-pengikutnya, dia memberi makan 5.000 orang ya, ini tidak termasuk istri dan anak-anak ya. Dan juga pada kejadian lain dia juga memberi makan 4.000 orang, tidak termasuk istri dan anak-anaknya.
So this is the same language that the prophet Isaiah uses in the 22nd chapter that you can apply to the 9th chapter.
Dan ini adalah bahasa yang sama yang Nabi Yesaya pakai di pasal 22 dan untuk diterapkan pada Yesaya pasal 9 ayat 6 tadi.
The last compound is Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace.
Gelar terakhir adalah Shar Shalom, Raja Damai atau Pangeran Damai.
In fact, the word Sar is in the name Israel.
Bahkan kata Sar ini adalah nama daripada Israel,
but it's in the verb form based upon Jacob's name change.
tetapi dalam kata kerjanya ya yang dimasukkan dalam perubahan nama Yakub jadi Israel ya.
Sar is the noun,
Sar itu kata benda,
but a Sar must strive or fight battles to become a king.
seorang Sar itu harus berperang di dalam suatu peperangan ya untuk menjadi seorang raja.
So because Jacob strived with God and man and conquered,
Karena Yakub itu sudah bergumul ya melawan Allah dan manusia dan dia menang.
even though his hip was knocked out in wrestling with the angel,
Ya sekalipun pangkal pahanya itu terpelecok ya karena dia telah bergumul melawan malaikat Allah,
God called him Yisrael,
Tuhan menamai dia Israel.
he who strives with God or is a prince of God.
Dia yang bergumul dengan Allah atau pangerannya Allah.
The word Sar or prince is also found in the name Sarah.
Kata Sar ini juga ada di dalam nama Sarah.
And Sar means a prince or a leader.
Sar itu artinya seorang pemimpin ya.
When her name was Sarai, Abram was calling her my leader, my prince.
Ketika nama Sarah itu masih Sarai, maka Abraham memanggil Sarai itu berartinya pemimpinku ya atau putriku, putriku ya.
So her name was Sar with a letter of God's name, Yud, at the end, which made it possessive, my prince.
Ya kalau kata Sarai ini akhirnya adalah Yod, itu artinya sesuatu kepemilikan ya, artinya punyaku, kepunyakanku ya atau putriku.
So you could say that God took his letter back, his letter of authority, representing a picture of the hand of God, the letter Yud.
Jadi dari nama Sarai ini Tuhan mengambil kembali ya Yodnya yang menggambarkan otoritas atau tangan daripada Tuhan ini, yaitu huruf Yod.
Instead, he gave both Abram and Sarai the two covenant letters of his name, the letter He, which shows up twice in his name.
Sebaliknya, maka Tuhan mengganti nama Abram dan Sarai dengan dua huruf He. Ini adalah huruf yang diambil dari nama perjanjian Tuhan ya.
So the first He in God's name, Yud He Vav He, went to Abram, and his name went from Avram to Avraham.
Ya, jadi huruf He pertama dari nama Tuhan kita, Yud He Vav He, itu diberikan kepada Abram sehingga dari nama Abram ini diganti menjadi Abraham.
The last He of God's name, Yud He Vav He, went to the last letter of Sarah's name to make her Sarah.
Kemudian huruf terakhir, huruf He terakhir dari nama Tuhan kita, Yud He Vav He, diberikan kepada Sarai, diganti menjadi Sarah.
So now her name is no longer Sarai, my prince, but Sarah, princess.
Nah sekarang namanya bukan lagi Sarai, yaitu Tuan Putriku, melainkan menjadi Sarah yang artinya putri, sang putri.
So now Abram was Abraham or Avraham, and he is now calling his wife princess instead of his prince.
Iya, sekarang nama Abraham ketika dia memanggil, dia tidak memanggil lagi Tuan Putriku, melainkan dia memanggil sang putri gitu ya.
And remember, this needed to happen because when Abram was married to Sarai, he submitted to her authority by sleeping with Hagar, which produced Ishmael.
Itulah sebabnya ketika nama Sarah ini belum diganti, masih Sarai, maka Abraham ini suami takut istri ya. Dia tunduk kepada otoritas daripada Sarai sehingga dia meniduri Hagar budaknya dan menghasilkan Ishmael.
And even though God did bless Ishmael and Hagar, the covenant was supposed to come through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Sekalipun Tuhan juga memberkati Hagar dan Ishmael, tapi perjanjian Tuhan harus diturunkan dari Abraham, Ishak, dan Israel.
And this couldn't happen without Sarai becoming Sarah, and then having Rebecca, and then Leah and Rachel.
Dan ini terjadi ketika Sarai dirubah menjadi Sarah, dan kemudian Ribka, dan kemudian melalui Rahel dan Leah.
God is the strong Elohim that guards or protects his covenant.
Tuhan adalah Allah yang perkasa yang melindungi perjanjiannya.
Now let's talk about Hagar for a minute.
Oke, sekarang kita mau bicara Hagar sebentar ya.
Hagar is an Egyptian woman, and she's a servant to Sarah.
Hagar adalah seorang Mesir ya, dan dia adalah pelayan atau hamba daripada Sarah.
It was her idea to use her as a surrogate since she was the handmaiden.
Dan inilah ada ide daripada Sarah ya untuk menjadikan Hagar itu ibu pengganti karena Hagar ini adalah pelayannya.
Since Sarah was barren at the time and she needed a miracle to have a child, she thought, I'll come up with an idea. My husband will sleep with this Egyptian woman.
Dan pada waktu itu Sarah mandul dan dia punya ide, aduh gimana nih kalau si suamiku tidur aja ya sama hambaku ini, orang Mesir.
But we know in Judaism today, confirmed Jewish identity comes through the mother.
Dan kita tahu bahwa sekarang keturunan Yahudi itu harus dari sisi ibu ya, jadi harus dari ibunya bukan dari ayah.
But tribal distinction comes from the father.
Tapi kalau suku-suku lain di luar Yahudi itu keturunannya ditentukan dari pihak ayah.
So technically Ishmael is Egyptian through his mother.
Jadi secara teknis Ishmael itu adalah orang Mesir dari ibunya.
And there is a potential to be identified with Abraham through distinction of tribe, but we don't have the tribes of Israel yet.
Ya sebenarnya ada potensi sih dia memang bisa dijadikan keturunan Abraham kalau yang merupakan suku lain ya. Tapi pada waktu itu Israel memang belum ada.
And Jacob, Abraham's grandson, prophesied that the Messiah and the kings of Israel must come from the tribe of Judah.
Dan Yakub pada waktu itu cucu daripada Abraham itu dia menubuatkan bahwa Mesias itu harus lahir dari keturunan Yehuda.
And if you think about Ishmael, this son of Hagar, he is considered to be the father of Islam.
Dan mereka mengklaim ya bahwa anak Hagar Ishmael itu adalah bapak dari orang-orang Islam.
Or more specifically, we should say the forefather of Muhammad and the Islamic religion.
Dan atau lebih spesifik ya, kita katakan Ishmael itu adalah leluhur dari Muhammad dan bapak dari orang-orang Islam ya.
So that the prophet Muhammad claimed that there was a connection to Abraham through Hagar's son.
Supaya Muhammad bisa mengklaim hubungannya dengan Abraham melalui anaknya yaitu Ishmael.
And just like there is a different covenant and religious belief system, Islam does not see Isaiah 6 and 7 as pertaining to the same person as we see in the text.
Ya, sama seperti agama-agama lain, maka Islam itu tidak melihat nubuatan di Yesaya 7 dan 9 tadi sama seperti kita melihat nubuatan-nubuatan di kitab Yesaya tadi.
They believe that Muhammad is the prophet that Isaiah is prophesying about in chapter 9.
Mereka percaya, orang Islam percaya bahwa di Yesaya 9 ini adalah nubuatan untuk nabinya.
They say that Jesus or Yeshua is disqualified from being this person described in the verses.
Mereka mengatakan, oh Yesus nggak cocok nih kayaknya dengan nubuatan di Yesaya 9.
So now that we've looked at the Hebrew, we have to ask the question, was Jesus or Yeshua considered a miracle worker?
Nah sekarang kalau kita melihat teksnya di dalam Yesaya 9 tadi, apakah Yesus ini cocok bahwa dia itu adalah pembuat keajaiban?
All we have to do is look at the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we know that they attest to many miracles that Yeshua did, and many that were not written in the book because we couldn't tell it all in just their accounts.
Kita hanya perlu melihat di dalam kitab Injil kita, Matius, Markus, Lukas, Yohanes, dan kitab-kitab ini merupakan bukti-bukti dan saksi-saksi, ya, semua apa yang dilakukan Yesus. Ada banyak sekali mujizat-mujizat yang Yesus lakukan, dan bahkan yang tidak tercatat, ya, karena tidak semuanya bisa dicatat di situ.
In fact, prior to Messiah, one of the miracles that no one had done yet was open blind eyes.
Wow, ada satu mujizat yang tidak pernah dilakukan sebelumnya oleh siapapun kecuali Mesias, yaitu membuka mata orang yang buta.
So if you were to look at Muhammad's ministry as a prophet, would you see the same miracles? And does he come from the tribe of Judah?
Oke, kalau kita lihat Muhammad, apakah Muhammad pernah mencelikkan mata orang yang buta, dan apakah Muhammad berasal dari keturunan Yehuda?
And Isaiah chapter 9 does not talk about a prophet, it talks about a king.
Dan Yesaya 9 tidak bicara mengenai seorang nabi, tapi bicara mengenai seorang raja.
So Israel and Islam are at odds because Islam says that the text is referring to a king. And as far as I know, Muhammad was not a king. He might have been a leader, but he wasn't a king. He was a prophet.
Ya, kalau memang antara Israel dengan Islam ini memang sangat-sangat tidak cocok, ya, tidak sepaham, ya. Nah, kalau kita lihat Nabi Yesaya ini menubuatkan seorang raja, dan sejauh yang saya tahu Muhammad ini bukan seorang raja, ya. Dia mungkin seorang pemimpin, tapi dia hanya seorang nabi.
And if you look at the context of the first 5 verses, there seems to be more than physical battle going on for a warrior to come on the scene. There seems to be spiritual darkness, which would imply a spiritual battle against evil.
Dan kalau kita lihat 5 ayat di atasnya, 5 ayat sebelumnya, ini tidak bicara mengenai peperangan fisik, ya, yang memerlukan secara fisik kita berperang, tetapi mengenai kegelapan rohani yang memerlukan peperangan rohani di situ.
Isaiah chapter 9 verse 2 says, "The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light." We believe that light is the light of the Messiah that they saw.
Yesaya pasal 9 ayat 2 mengatakan, orang-orang yang tinggal di dalam kegelapan akan melihat terang yang besar, dan kita percaya bahwa terang itu adalah Mesias atau Yesus itu sendiri.
It goes on to say that those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined. It makes us think of Psalm 23, that yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because I have a shepherd leading me and guiding me.
Dan kalau kita lihat Yesaya 9 ayat 3 dikatakan mereka yang tinggal di dalam lembah kematian, ya. Ini bicara mengenai juga sesuai dengan Mazmur 23 yang Nabi Daud katakan, atau Raja Daud katakan, ya, bahwa ketika aku tidak akan takut, ya, berjalan dan melewati lembah kematian, sebab ada seorang gembala yang menuntunku.
So when you read the context, the king is actually fighting against spiritual darkness, not necessarily always physical darkness.
Jadi kalau kita melihat konteksnya di situ, Raja Mesias ini melawan kegelapan spiritual dan peperangan spiritual atau peperangan rohani, bukan peperangan secara fisik.
Because Islam would say that Yeshua didn't fight any physical battles, which makes him disqualified from fulfilling the verse.
Islam mungkin mengatakan, Yesus kan nggak pernah perang secara fisik, dia nggak pernah perang apapun, gitu, ya. Jadi Yesus ini nggak cocok dengan nubuatan ini.
So when we look at the context of Isaiah's prophecy, we see that there is more than just a physical survival of the nation, but more the spiritual light that will bring the Messiah to his rightful throne.
Jadi kalau kita melihat ini bukanlah beban secara fisik, ya, atau pada waktu itu bangsa Israel bukan hanya secara fisik tertindas, tetapi kegelapan rohani. Ini bicara mengenai kegelapan secara rohani, dan mereka akan melihat terang yang besar. Dan inilah yang dilakukan oleh Mesias sehingga dia bisa naik ke tahta kerajaannya.
The other reason why Islam disqualifies Jesus from fulfilling this verse is what is said in chapter 9 verse 7.
Dan hal lain yang membuat Islam merasa ini nggak cocok kalau untuk Yesus, ini mereka katakan ini ada di Yesaya 9 pasal 7. Yesaya pasal 9 ayat 7.
It says, of the increase of his government, there will be no end.
Dikatakan bahwa di dalam pemerintahannya tidak akan berakhir.
So the question that they have is, did he ever rule in government?
Jadi Muslim selalu bertanya, apakah Yesus pernah memerintah dalam suatu kerajaan?
But we know the passage is jumping ahead from the birth of Messiah to the messianic reign or messianic era that the Messiah will bring in the future.
Tapi kita tahu bahwa ayat tersebut ini lompat ya dari mulai kelahiran Mesias sampai pada kebangkitan Mesias ketika dia memerintah dalam kerajaannya.
So we know that prophets do this often, where they'll start with a prophetic event that's happening now and jump far into the future about something that is coming that is not yet seen.
Jadi para nabi sering melakukan hal ini ya, dia mulai dengan sesuatu yang sudah terjadi, nubuatan yang sudah terjadi, kemudian juga dia menubuatkan sesuatu di masa datang yang pada waktu itu belum terlihat atau belum terjadi.
So when you talk about him establishing his kingdom and his government, remember, the government will be upon his shoulder, which will mean it's on his shoulder of authority and responsibility to fulfill.
Jadi kalau kita bicara mengenai pemerintahan, apakah Mesias akan memerintah? Ingat bahwa lambang pemerintahan ada di bahunya. Artinya dialah yang akan memenuhi semua tugas-tugasnya dan menjadi raja untuk memerintah.
So the idea is that he will sit upon David's throne. It's separate in time from the time of his birth.
Jadi kalau kita membaca ayat tersebut ya bahwa Sang Mesias itu nantinya ya nanti pasti akan duduk di atas tahta Daud ya, dan ini terpisah agak mempunyai jarak ya dari kelahirannya.
And when we look at all the prophecies, we know that the rabbis came up with a solution for a big problem.
Oke, dan kalau kita lihat nubuatan-nubuat ini, para rabi ini mempunyai solusi ya untuk masalah-masalah di dalam nubuatan yang kita tidak ketahui.
They saw prophecies of a suffering servant who will die.
Mereka melihat nubuatan mengenai seorang hamba yang menderita yang akan mati.
And this suffering servant will die, they believe, in battle against the darkness.
Dan para rabi percaya bahwa hamba yang menderita yang dinubuatkan ini akan mati dalam peperangan melawan kejahatan atau kegelapan.
We see that battle of the darkness with the light of Messiah.
Kita melihat peperangan melawan kegelapan ini di dalam kehidupan Mesias.
But that doesn't mean that the prophecy is chronological in order, giving every detail in between.
Tapi tidak berarti bahwa nubuatan-nubuatan itu urut kejadiannya ya dan memberikan detail yang lengkap.
Because we have prophecies of him coming on a donkey in Zechariah and coming on clouds of heaven in Daniel chapter 7.
Sebab kita melihat nubuatan bahwa dia akan datang dengan mengendarai seekor keledai di kitab Zakaria, tapi dia juga akan datang dalam awan-awan di langit sesuai dengan nubuatan Nabi Daniel di kitab Daniel.
And not only does he come in clouds of glory in Daniel 7:13, but Isaiah 9:7 says that his kingdom's forever, which implies he never dies.
Bukan hanya di dalam kitab Daniel 7 ayat 13, dia datang dengan awan-awan kemuliaan dari langit. Tetapi kalau kita lihat Yesaya 9 ayat 7, ya, dia mengatakan bahwa kerajaannya, dia akan memerintah selamanya, artinya dia tidak akan mati.
So traditionally, the suffering servant is called the son of Joseph, who suffered as a patriarch of Israel.
Jadi secara tradisi para rabi mengatakan bahwa hamba yang menderita ini berasal dari keturunan Yusuf ya atau anak Yusuf, bapak leluhur Israel.
But don't forget, even Joseph was exalted to second in command, like Yeshua is on the right hand of the Father.
Tapi jangan lupa sama seperti Yusuf ini merupakan pemegang kekuasaan kedua ya setelah Firaun, sama seperti Yeshua yang duduk di sebelah kanan Allah Bapa.
And this is actually what we mean by a prince. He sits on the right hand of the Father, waiting to take his Father's throne when he's given the authority to do so.
Dan sama seperti seorang pangeran ya, yang dia menunggu ya, dia berada di sebelah bapaknya ya, maka Yesua juga berada duduk di sebelah kanan Allah Bapa menunggu sampai semua otoritas itu diserahkan kepada dia.
And there are many prophecies that not only the prophets themselves did not understand of how they would be fulfilled, but until events happen, we're only able to look back and say, I believe that was a fulfillment of that verse.
Dan bukan hanya itu, para nabi sendiri kadang-kadang tidak tahu ya tentang nubuatan-nubuatan itu. Mereka tidak begitu mengerti bagaimana membaca nubuatan-nubuatan tersebut sampai semuanya digenapi dan terjadi. Baru mereka melihat ke belakang dan mereka mengatakan, oh ternyata ini nubuatannya sudah digenapi.
So when Islam says that he cannot be a fulfillment of this passage of this Messiah figure, they're discrediting him based upon the fact that he has not at that time or in his lifetime fulfilled any role in government or had a kingdom yet.
Jadi ketika Islam mengatakan Yesus nggak cocok dengan nubuatan ini, itu dikarenakan ya Yesus sampai sekarang ini belum memerintah secara fisik atau belum punya kerajaan memerintah benar-benar di dunia ini secara fisik, belum dipenuhi katanya.
This is the same reason why traditional Orthodox Judaism does not accept Jesus or Yeshua as the Messiah, because they say he didn't sit upon David's throne according to history, and he has not fulfilled the role of the Messiah, son of David.
Nah, ini juga yang ditolak oleh para nabi ya. Jadi rabi-rabi secara tradisional, ini alasan yang sama ya yang digunakan oleh para rabi-rabi secara tradisional. Mereka menolak karena ketika mereka melihat ke belakang, Yesus ini belum memerintah secara fisik ya di atas tahta Daud, dia belum punya kerajaan ya. Jadi itulah alasan mereka menolak kemesiasan Yesus.
But we have to remember that according to rabbinic tradition, the suffering servant, the son of Joseph, is a forerunner for the king that will be called son of David.
Tapi kalau kita lihat lagi ya ayat-ayat Alkitab bahwa hamba yang menderita yang sesuai dengan tipe daripada Yusuf ini itu merupakan pendahulu, jadi mendahului ya daripada Mesias yang dikatakan seperti Raja Daud.
And we solve the problem with the resurrection of our Messiah that the Pharisees preached and taught in the first century.
Dan kita melihat hal ini di dalam kebangkitan Mesias yang mana ini diajarkan oleh orang-orang ahli Taurat dan orang-orang Farisi ya dan ahli Taurat.
We even talked about last time we were together that the rabbis that believe one of their Hasidic rabbis who died could resurrect from the dead and still be the Messiah.
Dan pada pertemuan yang lalu kita sudah membahas ya bahwa orang-orang Yahudi Hasidik dan mereka percaya bahwa seorang rabi mati kemudian dia bisa bangkit kembali.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe, known as Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, is still in the grave.
Rabbi Menachem, whatever it is.
Yes, his name. Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Yeah, long name.
Menachem Mendel Schneerson, I don't know. Ya, dia masih di dalam kuburan dan mereka percaya dia akan bangkit kembali.
But when you go to Jerusalem and you go to the garden tomb, he is risen.
Dan kalau Anda pergi ke Yerusalem dan Anda pergi ke tempat kubur batu Yesus ya.
Not the Hasidic rabbi, but the Messianic rabbi, Yeshua.
Ya, jadi kalau Anda pergi ke sana ya tempat kubur batu Yesus, ternyata Mesias sudah bangkit gitu ya, bukan seorang rabi Hasidik ya, tapi rabi Mesianik yaitu Yesus.
So when you look at the fulfillment of this verse, it says that not only would he be Aviad, a father to his generation, I believe that's exactly what Yeshua did when masses of people would come to him and he would meet their needs like a father meets the needs of their children.
Jadi bukan hanya itu ya, Yesus juga memenuhi nubuatan mengenai seorang Aviad, ya Aviad artinya bapak yang memelihara generasinya atau bapak yang memelihara keturunannya ya. Nah, ini juga Yesus selama dia di dunia, dia juga memelihara pengikutnya ya atau para muridnya dengan memenuhi kebutuhan mereka.
But remember, for Israel to have a king, they must accept him and say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Jadi untuk Israel bisa menerima Yesus sebagai raja, mereka harus mengatakan Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Jadi diberkatilah dia yang datang di dalam nama Tuhan.
And did you hear the last part of that? He will come in the name of the Lord.
Jadi Anda dengar ya bagian terakhir, dia harus datang di dalam nama Tuhan.
And the book of Revelation tells us that Messiah will have a name that he bears, which is the name of his Father.
Dan kalau kita baca di dalam kitab Wahyu ya, bahwa Mesias itu akan mempunyai nama ya yang dipasangkan kepadanya, dia akan mempunyai nama yang diberikan Bapa kepadanya atau nama Bapanya.
This is seen in type and shadow when warriors would battle for their kingdom and bear the name of their king and kingdom on their helmets and on their shields.
Ya, ini adalah suatu bayangan atau gambaran ya, bahwa jika seorang prajurit atau seorang pahlawan itu dia berperang ya di medan perang, mereka akan memakai nama daripada raja dan kerajaannya. Itu di dahinya mereka akan memakai nama rajanya dan di dalam perisai mereka.
So there really is no reason to disqualify Yeshua from fulfilling this verse. If you take in mind that it's not the only prophecy about the Messiah, you have to read all of them in context and put them together in a timeline that the Gospels help us understand.
Jadi ini bukanlah alasan ya untuk menyatakan atau mengeluarkan Yesus dari nubuatan-nubuatan di situ. Kita harus melihat lagi nubuatan-nubuat itu dan meletakkannya di dalam urutan susunan yang sesuai. Dan kalau kita membaca kitab Injil ya, maka kita bisa itu membantu kita untuk melihat nubuatan-nubuatan tentang Yesus.
So anything that Yeshua didn't fulfill in this prophecy, we know he will fulfill when he comes again.
Dan nubuatan-nubuatan yang belum digenapi oleh Yesus di dalam semua kitab-kitab itu, maka akan digenapi Yesus pada kedatangannya yang kedua kali.
So when you think about the prophecies of the suffering servant and the ruling reigning king, the rabbi said it must be two different messiahs.
Jadi kalau kita melihat ya, para rabi mengatakan bahwa kalau kita melihat Mesias dari yang menderita ya, hamba yang menderita menurut anak Yusuf ini, dan juga satu lagi Mesias ini harus memerintah di atas tahta Daud sesuai dengan tipologi Raja Daud, maka para rabi mengatakan ini kayaknya ada dua Mesias nih.
So how do we reconcile this? We actually know that the Messiah who suffers is coming back to be the Messiah who rules and reigns on David's throne.
Jadi bagaimana kita menyelesaikan dua tipologi tersebut, yaitu hamba yang menderita dan seorang raja yang memerintah. Ternyata ini dipenuhi oleh Yesus ya. Yesus kedatangannya yang pertama, dia datang sebagai seorang hamba yang menderita. Dan kedatangan yang kedua nanti, dia akan memerintah sebagai raja di atas tahta Daud.
And we know there has to be a time break, because how do you have verse 6 talking about the birth of Messiah? And then all of a sudden, one verse later, he's already a full-grown man sitting upon a throne.
Iya, tentu saja ini pasti akan ada jeda waktu ya. Bagaimana mungkin kita melihat Yesaya 9 ayat 6 bicara mengenai seorang anak yang lahir, kemudian pasal ayat 7-nya, ayat selanjutnya, dia ternyata sudah jadi raja yang memerintah. Sudah dewasa gitu maksudnya.
We're forced to take in consideration any prophecy that seems to describe the birth of Messiah, the timeline between, and then the reign of Messiah.
Ya, jadi kita harus mempertimbangkan, itu pasti ada jeda waktu di situ ya. Karena ayat 6 itu bicara mengenai kelahiran seorang Mesias, ayat 7-nya bicara dia sudah memerintah sebagai raja.
And I just want to say again, the prophecy is not about a prophet that will come, as Islam calls Muhammad their prophet. He has to be a king that sits upon David's throne, which means he comes from the tribe of Judah. So Muhammad doesn't qualify now.
Iya, jadi sekali lagi ya, tidak seperti gambaran Islam ya. Ini bukan mengenai nubuatan seorang nabi, karena Muhammad itu cuma seorang nabi ya, tapi nubuatan mengenai seorang raja Mesias yang harus duduk di atas tahta Daud dan harus lahir dari keturunan Yehuda.
And he has to be a miracle working counselor, which shows that Yeshua is the perfect candidate.
Dan dia haruslah pembuat tanda-tanda dan keajaiban, dan ini menunjukkan bahwa Yesus ini kandidat yang sangat sempurna.
Okay, so this verse is a perfect verse that we could talk about and discuss more, maybe opening the floor for some Q&A to talk further about who this Messiah figure is in Isaiah 9, 6, and 7.
Oke, kita akan bicara lebih lanjut. Kita akan buka Q&A, tanya jawab. Kalau Anda mau bertanya mengenai siapa sih sosok figur Mesias yang ada di Yesaya 9 ayat 6 sampai 7 ini. Silakan, Pak Lidara.
Ya, oke. Ya, kalau ada yang mau bertanya, silakan raise hand. Waktunya seperti biasa sudah tahu ya, bahwa satu orang satu pertanyaan. Silakan raise hand yang mau bertanya. Ini topiknya lagi hangat loh. Karena berdasarkan Zuma, Zulkiper katanya, itu Yesaya 9 ayat 6 ini
Yes.
diangkat.
Pak Singgah Yehuda, Pak Lidara.
Ya.
Pak
Ya.
Lion of Judah.
Oh,
Please.
Lion of Judah ada.
Iya, translate yourself.
Translate ya. Mana raise hand-nya
Ya,
nggak ada?
shalom.
Oke,
Shalom.
silakan. Nggak,
Shalom.
raise hand-nya mana nggak ada kelihatan. Oke, lanjut.
Tadi ada.
Oke, lanjut.
Ini saya resen. Kelihatan nggak, Pak?
Kelihatan.
Oh, kelihatan gede bener kelihatan. Oke, lanjut.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Thank
Shabbat
you very much for
Shalom.
the very good explanation on the verses. Yes, I have a question. One question. Some said that the prophecy is for King Hizkiah because he's the reformer. But I for sure it's not for Hizkiah, because I understand Hizkiah, the King Hizkiah also God rebuked him. I forgot the verses, but I will check on the verses and I will check later.
Yeah, well, that's good that you mentioned that, because that's sometimes how the rabbis get out of this verse that are Orthodox, that don't believe in Yeshua. But we have to understand that the very first title, Pelayoetz, means that this person has to be a miracle worker. He fixes and counsels people's problems with miracles. And does Hezekiah match that description?
Ya, jadi Pak Singgah Yehuda ya tadi tanya, para Rabbi katanya Nubuatan ini bisa juga untuk Raja Hizkiah. Kemudian Rabbi Brian mengatakan, ya memang beberapa menubatkan itu Hizkiah, tetapi ini gelar pertama adalah Pelayoet, ya, jadi orang yang membuat mujizat-mujizat. Apakah Raja Hizkiah bisa membuat mujizat-mujizat?
Maybe because Hizkiah doing some reformation, then they said that that's the miracle of Hizkiah. He open and repair the temple, right?
Yes, we could see quite a few kings doing things like this. You know, you think about the efforts of Josiah and Jehoshaphat, and we see that Hezekiah and a lot of these kings, they did what was good in the eyes of the Lord, unlike the kings of Israel in the north that did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. And some of the kings of Judah also did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord, and they were removed. Like Jeconiah, who had the blood curse on his family line, which is why we probably have to have a virgin birth, because of that blood curse on this king of Judah that went into Babylonian exile.
Maybe because the first said it has been born. So that's what, like, the child has been born.
Yes.
Not will be born.
Yes, well, again, because it's a prophet, he's seeing into the future things that are going to happen. Just like the sign of Isaiah 7:14, that a virgin or young maiden this will be a sign that she will have a child. Obviously, it's something that will happen in the future, because the prophet can't prophesy about something that's already happened and have it be prophetic, right? It has to be something that has not happened yet. And we know And we know there's no son upon the throne yet, right? At the time of Isaiah's writing. So the prophecy is in context with someone who will reign upon the throne of King David, and that his kingdom will be forever. Can we say that of Hezekiah?
Yeah, it's like a double prophecy. But Rabbi, why the prophet Isaiah used the term "has been born"? So, Muslims in Indonesia they asked us about why the prophet used this tenses like "has been born." It's like already born, right? So Jesus is not born in the time of prophet Isaiah. So
Neither is
it
Muhammad.
cannot. Yeah.
So the very argument
Uh-huh.
they're proposing is the very argument that disqualifies Muhammad from being the prophet.
Yeah, right.
And we have to understand the role of a prophet. He sees things from the mind of God, and God
Okay.
declares the end from the beginning. So when he gives
Right,
it,
right.
it's like even John, when he saw the New Jerusalem, he saw it as if it was already established on the earth. Every prophet
Okay.
sees things already done from God's mind as they tell the people.
Oke, jadi nabi-nabi itu kadang-kadang menggunakan kata telah lahir ya, sesuatu yang telah terjadi walaupun hal itu belum terjadi. Karena nabi ini melihat dari matanya Allah ya. Sama seperti Rasul Yohanes ketika di kitab Wahyu melihat penglihatan mengenai Yerusalem baru, seakan-akan itu sudah datang, padahal itu belum terjadi. Tapi kalau kita melihat Allah itu selalu mendeklarasikan atau dia mengatakan hal akhir segala sesuatu dari sejak awalnya ya. Yesaya 49 ayat 9 sampai 10. Jadi dari kacamata Allah hal itu sudah terjadi gitu loh. Oke. Ada pertanyaan lain teman-teman?
Ya, ada lagi yang raise hand.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Saudara.
Saudara.
Bevakasha.
Bevakasha. Oke. Bevakasha itu silahkan. Bevakasha. Oke, ada lagi other participant to ask the question. Raise hand. Wah, semua berarti sudah mengerti nih, Bu Sofi.
All the
by the way,
participants.
okay, I have another question then.
Okay.
All right. Can we also relate this passage of Isaiah 9 to the prophecy of Jacob to his son Judah, because there is a word there, until Shiloh comes, and Shiloh means peace. Am I right?
Actually, no.
Interesting.
Shiloh in Hebrew means literally to the one whom it belongs, referring to the rightful authority that it belongs to. Shiloh actually is the prefix shin, which means that which or who, from asher, and lo is referring to him. When I say lecha, that means to you, or lech to a female, or li to me. So like for instance, I say korim li, I am called by someone, or to me it's been called my name. So I say korim li Baruch, instead of saying, my name is, which name is Shem, but you can say my name is, this is what they call me. They call to me. So it means to him, lo. So it's translated in, if you look at all the different English translations, many of them will imply the one to whom it belongs, meaning the kingdom. It's not the same as shalom, right? It's a different construct totally in Hebrew letters.
All right, but I read on the Rashi comment on Genesis 49. It said the word until Shiloh comes, it refers to the King Messiah.
Oh, absolutely. That is definitely the case. They even consider it like a name. But again, the meaning of the name is to him to who it belongs, is the implication of the words who, the person, and to him. So Shiloh, again, it's not the same construct of letters as shalom or from the root shalom. It's different. So it is considered to be in reference to the Messiah, and which makes more sense than saying it means peace, because again, you're trying to connect it to Sar Shalom, but that's not the context of the verse. It's referring to the King Messiah, and Rashi was correct on that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oke, ada yang mau tanya lagi? Ayo tanya yang banyak, weh.
Iya, ada yang mau tanya lagi? Ayo, masa cuma Lion of Judah aja.
Rabbi, I want to ask about Isaiah 7, verse 14. Is it about the virgin birth, or it's just about a young woman give birth to a child?
You know,
Alma or a virgin.
Betula and Alma are highly
Betula
debated
and Alma.
among Orthodox Jews in reference to the Christian belief of a virgin. But you have to understand, in the Jewish world, a virgin was a young maiden. So sometimes these words, if you actually do a complete search throughout the whole Torah and the prophets on the term Alma and Betula, you can see that it can be applied various ways to either a woman that is of old age and she can't have children, or to a young girl who wouldn't have been betrothed yet. So again, a young maiden was a virgin, because you're not supposed to have sex out of wedlock. So how the Greek is translating it, and even looking at the Aramaic and things like that, it can be applied to a virgin, but specifically Alma is a young maiden. But the implication is a young maiden who has not been with a man yet, which is probably why they translated it virgin in the New Testament and in the Septuagint.
Ya, jadi Alma itu artinya wanita muda ya, yang ya masih harusnya pakai perawan ya. Kalau sekarang nggak tahu nih, kalau perawan tua gimana nih teman-teman? Bisa juga kali ya. Nah, tapi Alma itu artinya seorang wanita muda ya, tapi yang diterjemahkan perawan. Karena perawan belum tentu muda kan, gitu loh.
Iya, ada perawan tua juga.
Can I go back to the word Shiloh or Shiloh? This is exactly what Rashi says. Until Shiloh comes, he says, this refers to the King Messiah. You want to translate that?
Ya, dikatakan di Kejadian 49 ya, ketika dinubuatkan mengenai Yehuda bahwa tongkat kerajaan tidak akan beranjak darinya sampai Shiloh ya. Shiloh ini di dalam komentar Rashi yaitu menyebutkan tentang Shiloh ini sebagai Raja Mesias.
He says it means to whom the kingdom belongs.
Rashi mengatakan kepada siapa kerajaan itu berhak ya, jadi yang berhak memiliki kerajaan itu.
And then he quotes the Aramaic translation from Targum Onkelos that says, when the Messiah comes, to whom the kingdom belongs.
Lalu Rashi mengutip terjemahan ya dari Targum terjemahan Onkelos bahwa itu menubuatkan bahwa Raja Mesias ya yang berhak atas kerajaannya dari suku Yehuda.
So then there is another Jewish commentary, Midrash Agada, that he quotes.
Kemudian dia juga mengutip dari Midrash Agada.
And he says Shiloh is a combination of Sha and Lo, a gift to him.
Jadi Shiloh itu kombinasi dari Sha and Lo, artinya hadiah yang diberikan kepada dia.
This is implying that when a king is enthroned, the nations and the people bring gifts to the king in his new kingship.
Ini mengartikan bahwa ketika dia nanti bertahta di atas kerajaannya, maka rakyatnya atau raja-raja bawahannya akan membawakan upeti ya, hadiah bagi raja yang baru bertahta ini di kerajaannya.
And we know it's a him because it says to him will be the gathering of the people.
Dan kita tahu dia seorang laki-laki ya, karena dia menggunakan kata ganti laki-laki, dikatakan dan kepadanya maka orang-orang akan berkumpul kepada dia, seorang putra ini ya.
In other words, he will bring all people together under his kingdom reign.
Dengan kata lain, dia akan menyatukan semua orang-orang ya di bawah pemerintahannya, kerajaannya.
Coming together implies unity, peace, and no war.
Ya, disatukan itu artinya menunjukkan penyatuan, ya, menunjukkan kesatuan, ya, artinya tidak ada lagi peperangan, artinya ada kedamaian.
Think of King Solomon that had peace with his enemies.
Ya, kita lihat seperti Raja Salomo ya yang mempunyai damai dengan semua musuh-musuhnya.
And his name in Hebrew, Shlomo, can actually mean his peace.
Ya, namanya di dalam bahasa Ibrani Shlomo itu artinya kedamaiannya ya.
So there is a lot of prophecy concerning kings coming from the tribe of Judah, as we see in Revelation, talking about the lion of the tribe of Judah. A lion is a king.
Ya, jadi kita banyak sekali ya nubuatan di dalam Alkitab kita bahwa Raja Mesias ini harus datang dari suku Yehuda, sama seperti kita lihat di kitab Wahyu, dia berasal dari suku Yehuda, singa dari suku Yehuda.
So next question.
Ya, oke. Pertanyaan selanjutnya, ya, cuman singa Yehuda yang satu ini bertekuk lutut di sudut kerling singa betina.
Ya, betul, Bu.
This Mr. Lion of Judah is under his lioness, Rabbi.
Say it again.
This Mr. Lion of Judah is under the authority of his wife. His wife is called
Oh,
lioness.
his lioness. Okay. Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life.
Oh,
It's
if
like
you
that
don't mind, I have one
king.
more question.
Yes.
Okay, may I? Because
Yes. Yes.
yes. You mentioned about the El Gibor, right?
El
The
Gibor.
last verses of the, yes, the mighty God, El Gibor. Yes, now I found it that Gibor could apply to King Ezekiel, but he fell on the L.
He failed on the L. Well, remember,
Right.
we already discussed
Yes.
the Hebrew word L doesn't only apply to God, but anyone who is mighty, because the term God is an abstract concept in English, but it's not necessarily the only translation of El or Elohim. It can refer to an angel, a judge of Israel, a king or warrior. The term means mighty or strong. That's what the term actually refers to. Mighty one or strong one.
Ya, jadi istilah
Alright.
El itu dari kata Elohim itu tidak berarti Allah Bapa yang di surga itu ya. Di dalam Alkitab kita El itu artinya yang kuat, yang perkasa. Ya, dan itu bisa merujuk ke otomatis Allah kita, ke malaikat-malaikat, ke para hakim, macam-macam ya. Pokoknya asal yang kuat itu bisa menjadi El.
But it does imply someone being given supreme authority or even divine authority from the person that they're doing battle for. So if Yeshua is the El Gibor, he is doing that under the sovereign power of God's kingdom as the kingdom representative.
Ya, tapi bisa juga kata El atau Elohim atau Allah ini ditujukan pada seorang yang diberikan otoritas yang begitu besar ya untuk mewakili kerajaannya. Ya, sama seperti yang ada di kata El Gibor ini. It's like in the Exodus, Rabbi, that God
Yes.
also
Moses
told Moses
was
as
like an El Gibor. Yes, he
Elohim.
would be a god to Pharaoh,
Yes,
a mighty one.
Yeah, that's what I thought in this Zoom, and the people that El, it doesn't always mean the God the Father, because Muslims always say that El is God. It's not true, because in our Bible, El can mean many things.
Yes.
The angels call Elohim.
Yes.
Also, it's something divine and
Yeah.
something that gave authority, like
Yes.
Moses.
Yes. Absolutely.
Ternyata pengajaranku betul.
Mantap.
Oke, ada pertanyaan lainnya?
Kayaknya semua pada udah mengerti kali ya, Bu Palidara.
Udah paham
Everyone
semua.
is agree, ya.
Udah paham semua.
Inilah Bang Kodek ya, punya
Nggak
tugas.
ada yang bertanya lagi. Karena
Mungkin dari Zuma, dari Zulkeplek, Pak. Zulkeplek
Dari Bambu.
Iya, jadi gini ya, saya juga baru habis live kan, karena
Tandanya adalah benjolan di punggung, Re.
gini, Bu Sofi, ya barusan saya live kan bahwa si Zulkoplak, saya bilang Zulkoplak ini kan mengatakan bahwa Muhammadlah Allah yang perkasa dan Allah yang kekal. Dia nggak berani sebut Bapa. Ya, dia nggak berani sebut Bapa. Jadi itu bukan untuk Yesus, untuk sang baginda Rasul katanya. Nah, akhirnya kan dia melantik baginda Rasulnya jadi Allah. Nah, pertanyaannya saya bertanya sama dia, tapi dia nggak berani masuk ke channel saya. Saya sudah pasang link. Kalau memang dia juga penghapus dosa. Selain dia adalah Allah yang perkasa dan Allah yang kekal, dia juga penghapus dosa. Pertanyaannya saya, kok Allah yang kekal kan tidak bisa mati, kenapa dia dimakan cacing, jadi tulang belulang, jadi fosil katanya. Nah, apakah itu kekal? Gitu. Iya, itu dia makanya. Masa Allah yang kekal dan perkasa kalah sama cacing tanah? Itu pertanyaannya. Tapi nggak bisa dijawab. Udah 2 hari ini saya live kan itu. Bahwa dan juga setelah dilantik tanggal 8 Oktober 2022, kemudian dipecat pada tanggal 13 Oktober dipecat. 12 Oktober berarti 4
Muhammad
hari
dipecat
saja.
jadi Allah.
Dipecat jadi Allah. Karena tanggal 12 Oktober dia katakan bahwa Nubuatan Yesaya 9 ayat 6 bukan untuk Yesus dan juga bukan untuk Muhammad.
Untuk dirinya.
Nggak tahu untuk siapa pokoknya. Mbuh. Jadi saya bikin judul tadi, Muhammad dilantik sebagai Allah, sebagai Tuhan pada tanggal 8 Oktober, kemudian dipecat pada tanggal 12 Oktober karena dinilai oleh Zuma Zulkoplak tidak mampu melakukan tugasnya. Akhirnya dia menganulir sendiri. Kalau mau dengar videonya ada videonya, kalau mau dengar saya bisa putarkan nanti. Ya, dia sendiri yang menganulir. Saya juga udah taruh di TikTok. Jadi
Oke, ada
menurut
pertanyaan mengenai hal ini enggak, Palidara?
ya mengenai hal ini sih saya sudah jelas tadi
Orang
Rabbi.
Kristen kayaknya udah jelas semua ya.
Ya jelas. Rabbi itu kan tadi mengatakan bahwa memang orang Islam itu
A lot of people coming up now. See?
Rabbi. Nah, ini banyak yang raise hand nih akhirnya kan.
Please, yeah.
Oke, silakan.
Opinion,
analis
you can
opinion.
open yourself.
Ya, you unmute yourself. Oke, Rabbi.
Yes.
Unmute
Yeah,
yourself.
you unmute yourself and translate yourself.
Yes, Rabbi.
I'm muted?
No, Rabbi. I mean the analyst opinion.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Analyst opinion have a question.
Selamat malam. Selamat
Rabbi.
malam.
Ya,
Yes.
saya boleh langsung tanya to Rabbi Bileci. Nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you. Shabbat shalom.
Yes. Ya, selamat malam. So I have the just general question. I would like to know about your opinion. That's my question is, what your opinion if that's a long time ago that the holy book that's without chapter number and verse number. So how about if we discuss about the that holy book without the number? So is it based on the story or historical or that culture of the Jewish people and the Jewish mindset? I think so, because lately that everybody arguing each other, fighting each other verse by verse. So actually we cannot talk about the God only by one chapter or two chapter. So what about your opinion about that? Because that the world is changing. Actually, I think we have experienced about 1,000 years without that chapter and verse. So what do you think about that, Rabbi? Thank you.
Hopefully I'm understanding what the question is specifically. I think when it comes to, I think with chapter and verse, we didn't have chapter and verse in the Torah. We didn't have chapter and verse in the prophets. The translators and our publishers made sure we had chapter and verse to find verses or find what we call their address. So I don't think that they were ever a part of the original text. And if you can look at Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12, the suffering servant passage, it's a prime example that you have to read those two passages of two different chapters in context, because there was no original chapter and verse to cut off the prophecy.
Yes. So I just want to know, maybe Rabbi knows that the story about the people who's the one to talk or arguing about the religion, let's say about 200 years ago or 300 years ago, that a holy book without number. So how come they're doing to arguing each other? So because that the world changing, like today, everybody arguing, fighting to bring up the chapter by chapter. So I think it's not good for the lately that situation and condition. So because I'm forgotten in English how to say in the pericope.
Maybe say it in Indonesian, have it translated, because there are a couple of things I'm missing out of what you're trying to say. But for the most part, I'm kind of getting it, but maybe do it in Indonesian and then let them translate, and that way we can go from there.
Oke.
Ya, Bapak mau tanyanya maksudnya gimana, Pak?
Ya, bagaimana kalau kita membaca Holy Book tanpa ada nomor chapter, nomor verse. Kan ini kan hal baru di dunia ini. Belum ada 100 tahun. Ada chapter, pasal, bab, dan nomor ayat. Bab sekian, ayat sekian. Kan itu kan satu paragraf. Begitu. Nah, namun akhir-akhir ini dunia modern, setiap orang berdebat membawakan nomor-nomor ayat sekian, titik, ayat sekian, titik. Itu yang terjadi. Ya seperti dari the other side, always talking about very short paragraph, very short sentences. Actually, like us, so we cannot talk about God if we bring up for arguing. Actually, at least we have to bring the mindset. I'm forgotten in English, pericope, or just some histories about that story of what the Holy Book want to say. So did you get it, Rabbi?
I thought we were translating from Indonesia.
Ya, jadi maksudnya Bapak itu apakah membaca yang dulu tanpa perikop, tanpa nomor, tanpa ayat itu sama dengan bacaan kita yang sekarang gitu?
Iya, sebab kalau aslinya itu dengan kisah, Bu. Dengan kisah dan kita berhenti bukan karena angka ayat, bukan.
Ya, memang pada awalnya semua manuskrip kita tidak mempunyai tanda napas atau tanda jeda. Jadi
Iya,
itu kan
semua
memang untuk
itu.
mempermudah.
Iya, ya termasuk alinea juga tidak ada, Bu. Begitu. Nah, jadi saya mau nanya opini, mungkin Rabbi tahu itu cerita.
Enggak, maksudnya apakah kita salah baca gitu atau salah menerjemahkan maksud Bapak?
Bukan. Situasi kondisi.
Kalau tanpa ayat, tanpa alinea, manuskrip kita itu kita semua udah tahu, Pak. Halo?
Hello.
Pertanyaannya apa gitu, Pak? Halo? Kok hilang suaranya?
Hilang. Mohon suaranya hilang, analis opinion.
Iya, Pak,
Hilang.
analis opinion, kalau manuskrip asli kita tanpa tanda napas itu tanda napas dan tanda jeda, yaitu baru ada sekitar abad ke-9, setahu saya ya. Begitu juga dengan nikut ya, baru ada nikut itu kira-kira abad ke-6, tahun 600 sampai tahun 900-an, abad ke-6 sampai 9 itu baru ada nikutnya atau tanda bacanya. Maksudnya Bapak pertanyaannya apa nih, Pak? Oh, I think he lost his signal.
Ya.
Okay.
Pak Ernest, silakan Pak Ernest.
Ya, shalom.
Pak Ernest, ya silakan.
Ya.
Shalom.
Ya, saya mau tanya nih, bagaimana pendapat Rabbi jika ada yang mengatakan bahwa sebenarnya ini bukan nubuat untuk Yesus Mesias, tapi ini adalah nubuat untuk Raja Hizkia. Itu argumentasinya seperti itu.
Tadi udah ditanyain, Pak.
Oh,
yang lain?
tadi ya?
Udah sama singa.
Oh, tadi saya ngerti. Oke, terima kasih.
Yang lain apa, Pak?
Sudah.
Yang lain apa?
Yang lain mungkin, Pak.
Ini memang double prophecy ya. Jadi sudah terjadi, bisa juga untuk Hizkia dan juga untuk Mesias ya.
Oh, iya. Oke, kasih.
Ada lagi, Pak? Yang lain, Pak?
I think I have the answer. Yes, Rabbi, the question same like my question. They said that the prophecy is for King Ezekiel, but as I mentioned earlier, that the prophet Isaiah rebuked King Ezekiel. We can read in Isaiah 39, verse 6 to 7, and 2 Kings. Let me check again. 2 Kings 20, verse 17 and 18. Yes.
Yeah.
Isaiah made a prophecy to King Ezekiel. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's double
God-
prophecy, Rabbi.
Well,
No.
Again-
Ezekiel doesn't meet the prophecy because
I agree.
Ezekiel have sinner. Yes.
I think that yes, there's many double prophecies in scripture, but when you look at the ultimate fulfillment of this person, for instance, look at verse 6 and verse 7. Does Hezekiah, we call him Yehezkel, excuse me, not Yehezkel, Hezekiah does not fit the fulfillment. As far as verse 7, sitting upon the throne forever, I mean, that just doesn't fit. And again, why give so much praise to one king of Judah when there are many kings of Judah that did great things, but was Hezekiah perfect in his reign? No. So again, he did great things as Jehoshaphat, Josiah, and others, but why give so much attention in such a heavy praise to Hezekiah? How does that solve the problem of these terms, like the Peleiots, Abiad, El Gibor, and Sar Shalom. Does it really fit Hezekiah? I don't think so.
And he has seen, according to Isaiah 39, verse 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Because he received a lot of gift from other kings, a lot of gift, good gift, luxurious gift, and the prophet Isaiah rebuked him.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't fit the Messiah figure that is being described here. Obviously, it has to refer to Messiah. So to make it Hezekiah is a temporary reign, when this king has an eternal reign or an everlasting reign, a kingdom that will have no end, a kingdom whose kingdom continues to increase. Does that really fit Hezekiah perfectly? No.
Right.
And what about Psalm 2, Rabbi?
Psalm 2, yeah, that's another. Psalm 2 goes perfectly with 2 Samuel 7, that talks about all of David's children, that will be considered sons of God, the idea that I will be to you a father, you will be to me a son. But he's talking about setting his king on his holy hill Zion. Psalm 2 is what we call the enthronement psalm. It's the psalm read to enthrone a king coming from the tribe of Judah, from the lineage of David, to sit upon the throne in Jerusalem.
So it is also referred to the King Messiah, right? In Psalm.
So the
2.
ultimate king of both Psalm 2 and 2 Samuel 7, yes, is the Mashiach, is the Messiah, King Messiah, as Rashi would call him. So but it also can apply, like in 2 Samuel 7, it can apply to all the sons, as it says, all the sons of King David. So in some sense, all the kings of Judah were a picture, a type of shadow of what the Messiah's role will be. Because all of these, if you look at 2 Samuel 7, it talks about if he has to chastise the sons, they will be chastised. Yeshua was not chastised for his own sin, but for the sin of the world. So again, he kind of supersedes or is exalted higher, has supremacy over these normal kings that come from David's loin, from his lineage. And he is the ultimate son of David. He is the final king. So it speaks of him, but it also can include in some way all the kings of what their role is supposed to be. But obviously Psalm 2 is very highly exalted to only refer to the King of Kings, the final king of from David's enthronement.
So it's a type of Messiah. Does the Messiah will be a king like David?
Yeah, all the other kings of Judah were types of the final king of Judah, which is the Messiah, which is what John is talking about. When he actually talks about two comings, he says he's coming like a lamb that's slain and like a lion, right? So the first coming of Messiah was like a lamb that was slain, the suffering servant, and the second coming is referring to the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who will take up his rightful throne.
Oke. Ya, Pak Analis gimana? Mau melanjutkan lagi pertanyaannya? Pak Analis. Tadi kita sudah tahu ya Pak, kalau manuskrip aslinya memang tidak mempunyai tanda nafas.
Halo.
Ya, tanda jeda.
Halo.
Yang mau Bapak tanyakan apa Pak Analis?
Iya, saya cuma nanya opini gitu ya, karena Rabbi, I came from the Apostolic Church. That's why I know my Bible actually we don't have the number. So that's why I asked
manuskrip
about.
aslinya memang nggak ada angka. Kita udah tahu. Yang Bapak mau tanyakan gimana? Apakah cara baca kita beda gitu harusnya dengan manuskrip aslinya atau gimana?
Iya, karena kan kita ini kan sekarang membahas tentang kitab suci itu berangkat dari yang sudah ditentukan dengan pasal dan ayat. Sebetulnya enggak bisa. Karena banyak sekali para YouTuber kita menonton itu melarang berbicara tentang perikop. Harusnya itu sudah
Siapa
lumayan.
sebentar. Siapa yang mengatakan kita tidak boleh membahas perikop?
Ya, nggak usah saya sebut nama. Gitu. Ya, jadi itu selalu memang ayat itu dipotong-potong dari berbagai pihak, termasuk pihak Kristiani sendiri sebetulnya. Begitu. Jadi saya cuma mau nanya opini bagaimana perdebatan orang asing di sana. Begitu.
Oh, he wanted to ask you, do you think in the Western or in America, what about the debate about the verse in our Bible? Some verses, because now we have chapters and numbers of verses. Like in the real manuscript, we don't have chapters and we don't have numbers, so we should read them in context in one paragraph, so to know what it means, not divided by verses. Because right now we're looking at our Bible and then we read in just this verse, and like we read just like a piece of the verses.
Yeah.
We should read in a big context in the pericope, so we know what it means. And some of the Christians and also Muslims, like they try to divide it, the verses, they don't read it in context. Yeah, that's why they use this. Paul said that he was a liar, but if we read in the context, it doesn't mean that, just because they try to mutilate the verses, so we don't read in the big context. So also some Christians read it in these verses, take these verses out of context. So we shouldn't do that. So what do you think, Rabbi, about this opinion? How should we read our Bible?
I totally agree. And I teach this every single time we open the Torah scroll. I say, notice that it has no chapter, no verse, no commas, no exclamation points. Those are all added by the translators and transcribers, and the publishers reinforce it. So many times a thought is only understood by the previous verse or idea and the following verses in context.
Yeah.
So even reading Isaiah 9 and 6, notice I went back to verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you could even continue on after and just see the purpose for the numbers were only to make it easy to locate and identify what part of the writing you're referring to. We call it an address. But just like the address of a home only gives you the building number, it doesn't identify who's living in the home. So that's what we have to read in context to say, who are we talking about in context? I'm a big proponent of that we shouldn't stop just saying, oh, I read my verse, I read my chapter, or take a verse out of context. We have to read it in context. Or what we have is a pretext, and instead of having it in context, that means instead of exegeting, taking out of the verse what it's meant to say, we're eisegeting, putting into the verse what we want it to say.
Yes, Rabbi, maybe my last answering to Rabbi. Is it weird or unique for you? Because I follow the Philippine people also how to arguing. I follow from the other country also, like Africa, something like that. I think only in Indonesia like that to do that. So if the Rabbi with me, if we make up some arguing or some conversation, it's no problem because we always bring the context. But for the majority in Indonesia, even that the Christian side, the YouTuber, the apologete, Indonesian people is doing like that. That's why for me, because I came from the Apostolic Church, that's a weird for me. So I just ask about yourself, about your opinion. This is Indonesian Christuber is unique or weird or actually that wrong or mistake or something like that. Thank you, Rabbi. Please, your opinion.
Yeah, I would say that in general, since I teach,
did you worry that about the Indonesian YouTuber if doing always like that and like that? Did you worry for the future about the God knowledge for us?
Well, let me explain to you how I function. If someone asks me, like was asked today, please tell us who is being referred to in Isaiah 9:6? Well, I understand that they need to locate a certain idea by using the address, but I always read in context because I was taught to read in the Hebrew tongue, the Hebrew scriptures. So when I read, I have to read in context. There's no other option but to read it in context, which is why we read every year from the beginning, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, until we come to the final reading of the Torah in the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy. We're forced to read each portion in context, and we don't read it out of context. What's more difficult is when you add in the prophet reading. We sometimes have to educate the Jewish audience that you need to read the verse in context. Like Isaiah 61, they don't read the first 9 verses. They jump down and talk about, blind eyes being open and things like that, but they don't read it in context with the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So as a Messianic congregation, we read all the verses ahead of it so that we can see it as Yeshua who's doing these miracles.
Can you tell me about your opinion, your prediction? Because for myself, I'm worried about that for the future, for the God knowledge for us, because the YouTuber always like that, 99% doing like that, out of context. Everybody, every side.
But I don't think it's a problem just with the YouTubers. I think it's a problem with anyone that looks at scripture that takes a verse out of context or only focuses on an isolated verse. But I think it's been something that even before we had the internet, this is a problem we have in Western civilization. We isolate things to make a case, to make a point, but we're not considering the whole context of the conversation. And I teach this whenever I go to a church, wherever I go, when I teach in Bible college, when I disciple leaders, I always teach them to study in context and to go deeper than the surface question. Like, for instance, understand the author, the audience, the time it was written, what problems were being addressed in that culture or community, as well as what king or kingdom or power was ruling in the world, so that we see the total context of Moses's writing over Yeshua's apostles that are writing, or Isaiah who's writing. We have to read it in context or it makes no sense.
Yes. I think that's just your polite to explanation because
it's not a polite explanation. It's my mission. My mission is to help people understand they have to read in context. I don't operate in fear, so I don't worry about a fear of something happening. I operate in my divine assignment. My assignment is to teach the nations, like we're doing right now, to teach the nations, to disciple the nations on how to understand God's word, to be discipled, and to fully fulfill Messiah's mission, the Great Commission. That's my calling. I don't operate in any other fear, worry, doubt, confusion, or even worrying about rebuking or bringing attention to darkness in the world. My job is not to curse the darkness. My job is to shine the light.
Yes, you shine the light. Yeah, but for temporary, in my mind, that Indonesian YouTuber is crazy and very weird.
Well, that's again your opinion of a YouTuber that you generalized. Remember,
I'm worried.
Just because
I'm
there's
telling the truth.
Just because there's a YouTube. Well, again, worry is not a faith, and faith is sin. I mean, the Bible is not a faith is sin. So don't operate in worry. Operate in worship and word and prayer and pray for the nations to open their eyes to the truth. That's how we function. And then we use platforms like this, like YouTube, for the good. Because think about how many people are listening to this that will say, wow, I need to start reading my Bible in context. Wow, then we did our job today, because now they're going to start looking at scripture differently.
I know.
That's the purpose.
Like a trigger. Yeah, like a trigger to be learned.
Yes.
Thank you. Very
You're
nice
welcome.
conversation. Yes, and thank you everybody inside the room of the YouTube channel Brother Lidara and the others. Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask you something, Rabbi Brian, because I also teach about the Bible, and also teach about the background of the culture, like what happened in the time of Moses, what languages and the culture surrounding the Moses when he wrote the Torah, so we could understand better about the narrations of the creations in the Bible from Genesis, and then through Deuteronomy. Rabbi, I want to ask you, as you are a native Hebrew speaker, what's translations in English? Because I cannot speak fluently in Hebrew. What translation in English do you think is the exact or close to the real meaning of our Bible? Do you think King James versions is a good one translation?
I will tell you what my Hebrew teacher said. She's disappointed with all of the English translations because in some point or another, we miss the point. And as she says, because Hebrew is such a deep language and is very dynamic, meaning it's not static, you cannot lock a word into having only one meaning. It has to be read in context to see the implication of that meaning. We have to realize that there are some translations better than others, depending on what the intent of the read is for. So for instance, I might just to read, let's say, for instance, to read Genesis, I might just want to read the story again of creation. So I'll read a very easy translation for my English, modern English. But if I want to get specific and do a word for word study, I pick a word for word translation like King James or New King James or New American Standard. And it all just depends on what I'm about to do. If I want to kind of give a hint to what the Hebrew says or what the Greek says, I might go to the Amplified, but that's only just to get a hint and then say, well, gosh, they have in parentheses these other words for this one word. Let me now look it up in the Hebrew to see why they're translating it this way. And then I compare all translations through Bible Gateway so I can say, well, goodness, there's about 50% of these translations that go this direction, and then another 40 that do this direction, another 10 that has a unique traditional view, you know. So I look at all the translations and then go back to the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the Greek to find out why some scholars are translating these verses in a certain way. But I also use my knowledge of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek to say, well, that's not normally how that word is used in the language, whether in ancient Hebrew or modern Hebrew. I even compare, how is that word used in modern Hebrew compared to ancient Hebrew? So even though we're not all scholars, I try to train my students how to use simple apps and books to quickly learn the basics of the language. Even if they can't speak it, they can at least look it up and see its definition in Hebrew, Aramaic, or Greek through various websites.
Okay. That's what I'm doing. I'm also looking on online interlinear Hebrew Bible. So I'm looking word by word, Hebrew in English, and also Greek in English translations. I think we use the Leningrad Codex for the Old Testament and the Textus Receptus for the New Testament. Yeah. So I also use that interlinear Hebrew Bible, so we can learn word by word.
Beautiful.
Okay. Ada pertanyaan lagi, teman-teman? Atau kita akhiri Pak Lidara? Oke ya.
Boleh,
Iya, kalau sudah
singkat,
tidak ada
Bu.
pertanyaan lagi, ya.
Boleh
Sudah
singkat
jam 12.
18.
Oke.
Karena sering ditanya.
Ini jam 6. Boleh nggak ya?
18.
Oh, masih ada.
Oh, masih ada.
Oke.
Oh, masih ada. Ulangan 18. Song of Song.
Ya, ulangan.
Song of Song.
Nabi seperti Musa, bukan Nabi seperti
18.
Musa.
Verse 18.
Someone said not all YouTubers do like that. I want to learn Hebrew. Ya teman-teman, we have a Hebrew class here in the Zoom. We have a teacher in Hebrew. What day, Pak Codex, we have Hebrew class? I think
hari
Wednesday.
Tuesday hari Kamis jam 7 malam.
Oke, pertanyaan.
Thursday,
Untuk
7 o'clock p.m. Indonesia time, we have a Hebrew class. You can join us in the Zoom.
Yes. I just have to give a little warning. I have about 7% left on my computer because I left my
Oke, itu
charger
sudah
in at the synagogue and I won't get it till tomorrow. So I'm
Oh,
doing my
oke,
best to
oke.
keep it juiced up, but I don't have the adapter to keep it juiced
Ya,
up. So
chargernya ketinggalan di sinagog, teman-teman. Baterainya tinggal 7%. Lebih baik kita akhiri ya.
oke.
Ya, sebelum
Ya.
itu kita akan serahkan ke Abang Kodet untuk iklan.
Iya, boleh sebentar iklannya. Ini ada iklan-iklan berupa promosi channel ya, channel-channel yang melive-kan. Maksud saya mau promosikan channelnya Rabbi ya, kepada Bapak Ibu yang ada nonton di channel mana saja. Inilah channel dari Rabbi Brian Bileci ya. Silakan Bapak Ibu bisa subscribe. Di sini ada berbagai macam penjelasan dari Rabbi Brian Bileci ya. Lanjut adalah ada 16 dan 17 channel ya yang juga melive-kan acara ini, yang topiknya tadi ya tentang Yesaya pasal 9 ayat 6, yaitu channel WFM Apologetics, Kotso Hasamayim Lidara Raiwawa. Nah, ini kalau yang WFM Apologetik itu channel tuan rumah ya di sini ya. Silakan subscribe dan tonton ya. Lalu ini channel moderator nih yang KH Lidara Raiwawa ya. Nih Pak Lidara Raiwawa tuh. Lalu channel Waranai. Nah, ini acaranya setiap hari Selasa nih. Sang apologet nih. Lalu channel ibu kita Sophia Al Hayat Indonesia juga ya, jangan lupa subscribe. Lalu channel Sang Penggugat nih, acaranya juga besoknya ada nih, berturut-turut hari Sabtu dan Minggu acara beliau ya. Lalu channel Good is the Lord, jangan lupa subscribe dan tonton. Lalu channel Liglo Apologetics, channel YouTube Malikil Amalak, channel YouTube King of the Jews Network, dan tadi yang dikatakan Bu Sophia Al-Hayat Indonesia ada pelajaran bahasa Ibrani, ini juga live ya di channel Ibrani. Oke, lanjut. Channel yang live adalah Buah Sulung, Benedictus Ictus, Brahmanaha, Ferdinand Wardana, Pendalaman Alkitab, dan Anakronisme. Sekian informasi tentang channel-channel yang live, ada 16 sampai 17 channel dan termasuk channelnya Airben channel ya. Oke, terima kasih. God bless.
Okay, back to moderator. We're gonna ending this one, and then we ask the Rabbi to say prayer for us.
Okay, Rabbi. This end the program. Please berkat Kohadim.
Yes, and this comes from Numbers 6:24-26. So we're thankful that this pre-seed blessing pronounces the name of God by symbolism through the letter that I'm creating with my hands. So the name Shaddai has the letter Shin. It also spells Shalom, which is peace. It spells Sar, right? It spells Prince, a Prince of Peace. It spells Shekinah, the glory of God, the presence of God. It spells Shem, the name of God. So I'm symbolically placing the name of God on the people today. And we are still in the Feast of Tabernacles, where Messiah is tabernacling with us. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face upon you, be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you perfect peace. And Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. In the name of Yeshua, the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. B'Shem Yeshua, Amen. God bless you. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Toda Rabbi.